Room service, with a side of love. Narrator. Madison Taylor had meticulously planned her perfect weekend. A quiet getaway at a luxury hotel, hoping to disconnect from the overwhelming routine and work stress. Everything was perfectly organized in her mind. Yoga in the morning, coffee, reading, and city strolls. But, as always, things weren't going to go as planned. Upon arrival at the hotel, Madison approached the desk with a confident smile, thinking the day was starting out like a perfect story. However, when the receptionist informed her that her reservation had been duplicated, Madison's smile disappeared immediately. "What do you mean my suite is occupied by someone else?" she asked, clearly surprised but trying to remain calm. The receptionist, a shy young woman who looked even more lost than Madison, nervously smiled. "I'm so sorry for the inconvenience, Mrs. Taylor. There was an error in the system. The suite you booked is being occupied by another guest." Madison sighed deeply, looking at the ceiling to calm herself. "What am I supposed to do now?" "Well, the solution is that you'll have to share the room with another guest," the receptionist said, almost unable to look her in the eye. Madison exhaled exasperatedly. "Perfect! The perfect weekend. Exactly what I needed." Scene. Suite 1203. Initial meeting. Madison entered the suite, hoping to find a peaceful, orderly corner. But as soon as she opened the door, her patience was stretched. A tall man with messy hair and a sleeveless shirt was sprawled on the bed, looking at his phone. Madison's first impression was that this guy was definitely not her type. "Oh," he exclaimed, quickly getting up from the bed. "Sorry, I didn't see you come in. I guess there's been some sort of misunderstanding. I'm sure this isn't what you expected." Madison frowned, looking at this seemingly carefree man. "Who are you?" "I'm Drew Collins. And you're Madison Taylor, right?" Drew smiled, as if the situation were just a simple coincidence. "I'm a chef, here for a culinary retreat. This place is like my second home." Madison raised an eyebrow. "A culinary retreat? Seriously?" Yeah, I know. I'm not exactly the most organized guest, but if you want, I can go to the hotel's kitchen and prepare something. A good dish always helps calm the nerves, right?" Madison looked at him, a little surprised by his relaxed attitude. "I don't know if a plate of food will fix this, but let's see." Scene. Conversations in the hotel restaurant. The night went on, and Madison, despite her initial reservations, accepted Drew's invitation to have dinner in the hotel restaurant. She didn't know how, but Drew had a way of making things feel less awkward. Somehow, his presence was calming. Over the table, after a couple of glasses of wine, the conversation began to flow. "So, why would an organized woman like you decide to come to this hotel without a single escape plan?" Drew asked, smiling sideways as he cut his steak. "I just needed a break," Madison said, fiddling with her wine glass. "Work consumes me. I'm used to having everything under control, and sometimes I just want to forget about my to-do list." Drew raised his glass. "Sometimes, life is better without to-do lists, right?" Madison laughed. "That sounds terrifying. But exciting," Drew replied, with a challenging look. Madison took a sip of her wine, feeling how the tension between them started to dissipate. Maybe spending the rest of the weekend with this guy wasn't such a bad idea. Scene. Stroll through the park. The next day, Drew convinced her to leave the hotel and take a walk through the local park. The city, though bustling, had its charm, and Madison had to admit that wandering aimlessly wasn't so bad. "This is different," Madison said as they walked along a tree-lined path. "I've never done something so spontaneous." Drew smiled, his tone relaxed. "I know, you're out of your comfort zone. But trust me, this is what life should be." Madison gave him a sideways look. "That sounds terrifying." "Exactly," Drew replied. "It's exhilarating." Madison felt caught between her need for control and the attraction to the freedom that Drew seemed to offer. For the first time in a long time, a part of her wanted to let go and just see where the current would take her. Scene. Unplanned date. That evening, after a day of adventures and countless laughs, Drew insisted on taking her to a special restaurant with a view of the sea. The atmosphere was enchanting, and the chemistry between them had become undeniable. "So, what happens now?" Madison asked, a slight smile forming on her lips. "Now you're my personal tour guide?" Drew leaned toward her, smiling. "I'm just trying to show you that sometimes the best things in life come without being planned." Madison looked at him, feeling every word he said resonate in something deep within her. Maybe not everything in life had to be perfectly calculated. Maybe this adventure, which had started as a disaster, was exactly what she needed. Scene. The final revelation. On the last day of her stay, after sharing laughs, stories, and a couple of awkward moments, Madison and Drew found themselves back at the hotel bar. Drew, with his carefree attitude, had left a mark on Madison's heart. "You know," Drew said with a slight smile, "I think this weekend has been one of the best of my life." Madison nodded, smiling. "I think I can say the same. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I think you've taught me to see things differently." Drew leaned in closer, his expression softening. "I think the best part is that we didn't plan it. We stumbled into this madness, and now we're here." Madison laughed softly. "Yeah, madness is one word for it." And so, as the sun set on the horizon, the two of them realized that what had started as an accident might have turned into something much more significant. Final scene. Returning home. By the end of the weekend, Madison found herself on the plane back home, smiling as she looked out the window. She wasn't sure what had exactly happened, but one thing was clear. She had learned to let go of control a little bit, and maybe she even found something more in the process.